everyone, my name is Raz and welcome back to the Anime Dungeon. This video is going to be about something a little different than what my past few videos have been about. In my One Piece review, if I remembered to do so since this is being created before it, I should have mentioned the One Piece D20 role-playing game. Besides anime and video games, role-playing games are one of the other things that I am very interested in. One Piece D20 was made by a group called Bad Karma Gaming, and while they aren't actively continuing to develop the game any further, it is quite playable in its current state. It most closely resembles D&D 3rd edition if you're familiar with tabletop role-playing games. So with all of that out of the way, this video is going to teach you about the character creation process. First, I'll read the exact steps according to the player's handbook. Step 1. Basic information. Step 2. Alignment. Step 3. Pick disadvantages. Step 4. Calculate attribute scores. Step 5. Choose your race. Step 6. Calculate attribute modifiers. Step 7. Select a class. Step 8. Decide on a career. Step 9. Favor skills. Step 10. Calculate health points. Step 11. Set DR and resistances. Step 12. Choose starting feats. And Step 13. Buy stuff. I intentionally left things vague because I'm going to go in depth on all of the points mentioned earlier. But I'm also going to do them out of order because I don't think that the order presented is very helpful for making a character. Generally, I would start with knowing the age, race, gender, and that kind of role-playing information about my character. I'd also typically know what class I was going for. For instance, I would typically know that I was going to make a swordsman who is 22 years old and his name is Jack. That would determine how I built the rest of my character according to the rest of the steps, like which feats I pick and how I allot my stat points. As for your alignments, you have the typical RPG alignments of neutral, good, and evil, and then you have chaotic, lawful, neutral, and just general versions of each. For instance, there would be a chaotic good, a lawful good, a good, and a neutral good. In the campaign that I'm playing in, the alignment isn't so important because your alignment is determined by your actions. Something kind of unique to the One Piece D20 game, but some other games have it, so I know it's not totally unique, is that you have to pick disadvantages. Each character you make will have at least 3 disadvantages. In the book there is a very extensive list of possible disadvantages, but of course you can make up your own. These are just to prevent characters who are perfect and to make sure that everyone has a flaw. For the most part, they're minor things, such as being very unlucky, always sick, having insomnia, having a gambling problem, or stuff like that. You'll notice a lot of characters in the One Piece anime exhibit these disadvantages, like Nami being very greedy, Sanji being obsessed with women, Usopp lying all the time, Luffy being reckless, and so on and so forth. Finally, make sure you know what race your character is. If you followed my advice about knowing what kind of character you wanted to make before this point, you should probably already know what race your character is, as that's a core feature of what they look like. However, it is important to know which race your character is, as that determines stat bonuses and penalties. I will not be going into all of the bonuses and penalties of each race in this video. However, the races available in One Piece D20 are the humans, merfolk, fishmen, giants, sky tribesmen, kuja, cyborgs, and the long arm or long leg tribesmen. Like typical RPGs, the One Piece D20 game uses strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma for their characters. By default, at level 1, all of these start at 8. However, you get 20 points that you can spend to increase these higher than 8. You cannot go below 8, and you cannot go above 16. The exception to this rule is if your race has a bonus, whether it's positive or negative. Once you distribute your points, you should immediately calculate your attribute modifiers. This can be done by subtracting 10 from the ability score and dividing the result by 2, rounding down, of course. Though it is pretty standard among other RPGs where 8 would be a -1, 10 would be a 0, 12 would be a 1, 14 would be a 2, 16 would be a 3, and so on and so forth. It should go without saying that you want the stat that best works for your class to be the highest. Now, what's interesting in the One Piece D20 game is that each class has 2 stats that are good for it, but it's not like they're both good at the same time, but rather you could use either of them to be effective. Another thing to take into consideration is that wisdom is pretty much the primary stat for every career in the One Piece D20 game. So if your character's wisdom sucks, they probably won't be too good at their career in most cases. Now, if you're just trying to make a swordsman who kills people, you probably don't care too much about your career, but if you're trying to be the doctor or the chef or anything like that, you will need wisdom as well. And finally, charisma is important to have if you plan on being the captain, because the captain is typically charismatic. The classes available in the One Piece D20 role-playing game are Brawler, Marksman, Rogue, Specialist, Swordsman, and Warrior. The careers available are Bounty Hunter, Chef, Doctor, Marine, Navigator, Musician, Pirate, Scientist, and Shipwright. Next up is skills. Which skills you're allowed to learn is dependent on your class and career choice. There are certain feats that will grant you additional skills, and sometimes races will grant you additional skills as well. At level 1, all of the skills that you know start at rank 1, and if they're favored, they start at rank 4. Once you have your skills selected, it's probably a good time to decide which skills are favored. Skills are divided into primary and secondary skills, where primary are your attack, defense, and initiative and saves, where secondary are your professions, bluff, intimidate, and stuff like that. You can then calculate your health points, which is fairly simple. You get 5 health points plus whatever your constitution modifier is. So if you have a constitution of 12, that would mean you have a modifier of 1, which means you would start with 6 hit points. If you have 8, you would have a modifier of -1, and you would start with 4 hit points. And damage reduction and resistances are very easy to set as well, because at level 1, your damage reduction is 1, and it goes up by 1 each time you level up. Resistances start at 0 and they never naturally increase, and they will only be increased by equipment and feats, which is a great segue into the next part, which is choosing your feats. At level 1, you get to choose 5 feats. Be sure to pay attention to the prerequisites to each feat, as if you don't meet them, you can't take that feat. If your game master is allowing you to start with a devil fruit, you must take the devil fruit user feat. If you acquire a devil fruit later in the game, you will not need to take this feat, as it will be given to you. Feats can contain various benefits, such as raising your stats, raising your skills, giving you new abilities or new skills, or they can just be flavor in some cases, like the Iron Liver that lets you drink a nearly unlimited amount of alcohol without getting drunk. And the final step is to buy your equipment. You will start with 100,000 belly, or berry as you probably know it, to purchase items. The items you buy represent things that your character already owns before the game you're playing takes place. You will most likely need to buy the kit for your career, depending on which one you pick, and unfortunately all of them are 50,000 each. So your career kit is going to take half of your starting money. The rest of your money can be used to buy weapons, armor, and equipment, though weapons are very expensive for the most part, so odds are you're not going to be too decked out and stuff from the beginning. Now that I've gone over everything required to make a character, I'll actually go through the character creation process. For this character, I'll be doing a mermaid rogue whose name is Melissa. Why? Who knows? Her career will be, say doctor, just for something fun. Prestige class and prestige career are done later in the character making process, probably around level 10 or 15 depending on your campaign. I'll make another video about that in the future. She will not be having a devil fruit power. And I'm totally scatterbrained. I forgot to mention this character sheet I'm using is one that I created myself because I wasn't too thrilled with the one that was on the Bad Karma website. I'll include a link to this in the description. So her disadvantages, we're just going to go pretty simple. She'll be greedy. She will be, she'll have a big ego. And she will be a kleptomaniac. Sorry about my slow typing. I'm holding the mic in one hand, so I had to type one-handed. As for her attributes, before I distribute any points, we'll take a look at the player's handbook to see what the mer people get. So she gets a +2 to Dex, a +2 to Int, and a -2 to Con. So that becomes a 10. That becomes a 10. And was it a... yeah, it was a -2. So that kind of sucks. She's not going to be very hardy. Her swim speed is +15%, so that puts her at 35 feet per turn, and a land speed of 30, which I think is kind of weird because she still has a tail. The mermaids, when they turn 30 years old, which is one of their other feats, is that they get to move faster on land because their tail splits. Okay, so it's 15 feet. Okay, I did this wrong. So it's 15 feet on land, and they have 35 plus 15 in the water. So that'd be 50 feet in the water per turn. All of these other things aren't going to be on the character sheet. As for her favored skills, I'll give her Weapon Strike, because she's going to use her daggers. Initiative, so she can always go first. Reflexes, she's quick to act. And Defense, so she can survive with her low hit points. So now I'm going to have 20 points available here. And as a reminder, nothing can go above 16 except for dexterity and intelligence because our race gives us 2 more for those. So I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that by putting 8 points in dexterity, which will drop me down to 12. I'll bump this up to at least a 10, which will leave us with 8 points. Since we picked Doctor, it's probably a good idea to put a few points in there. She's going to be like a little above average for charisma, so that yeah, we'll just do that. So she's well-rounded, no negatives. This is how a lot of my characters turn out, for better or worse. I know some people like playing with penalties to kind of make their character more real, but I like not having penalties and just not being particularly great at anything. But we did walk away with an 18 in dexterity, which is going to mean her weapon skills are going to hit pretty hard and her defense is going to be pretty high. So next I'm going to do the skills, which I'm going to have to type in off camera because my sheet doesn't come filled out, since your class and whatnot determine which skills you get. So I will be right back. So I've filled out the skills now, and the skills that we get from Rogue are Balance, Bluff, Climb, Escape Artist, Spot, Listen, Perform, Hide, Move Silently, Sleight of Hand, Search, Trapping, and Tumble. The one worth noting here is Perform, because it covers many different things, and it can technically use Charisma or Dexterity depending on what you're performing. I'm going to say that Melissa's only going to perform things that use Dexterity just to play off of that instead of using my Charisma. Though technically it can use Charisma as well if she were to do like a song or some kind of thing like that. The abilities or skills from Doctor are Diplomacy, Gather Information, Heal, Sense Motive, and Research. It also had some that overlapped with Rogue, but that doesn't mean anything in the One Piece rule set. So I get to pick 6 of these as being favored. I'm probably going to go for Heal, because being the Doctor, you're going to want to succeed your heal checks. Research is probably important as well for being a Doctor. As I recall, several feats require a certain rank of research, so we'll go for that. We'll go for Move Silently to help sneak up and use the sneak attacks. Hide, so you can stay hidden easier. Sleight of Hand, since she's such a con artist that she probably will be very good at that. And Bluff, for the same reason, she's kind of a con artist. Another thing I wrote down while I had the recording turned off is the feats that you get from Rogue, which are Weapon Proficiency Light, Armor Proficiency Light, and Sneak Attack. The weapon and armor proficiencies simply are telling you what weapons you can use without any kind of penalty. And the sneak attack is some kind of bonus damage when you're behind the target or flanking, kind of like you would in D&D 3rd edition. So I think that's about it. No, it's not. I need feats. So I get 5 feats. The first feat I would probably take. I don't have heal rank 5. I'm pretty sure. Heal rank total is 5, but you need the actual rank to be 5. Let's undo that mistake I just did. Hopefully. Okay. So I can pick Daily Vitamins, which gives the Doctor and his crew a +1 to their saves. So that's pretty helpful. Normally I would be very OCD about capitalization and organizing these in alphabetical order, but since I'm recording, I can't be bothered to do that. Next, I don't think we qualify for any other Doctor feats. Um, Actually, we can grab herbal medicine, so we'll do that. Which herbal medicine gives you knowledge of herbal medicines, which allows you to create medicines using plants. Um, which there's a whole section in the book that details all of these medicines that you can make, and they'll say whether they're herbal or not. This skill allows you to make those, which I know there's several that'll be helpful, like one that numbs pain or puts people to sleep and stuff like that. So it would have combat uses, it would have RP uses, it would have healing uses, so definitely a good skill to have. Um, as for the other three feats, we should probably look at rogue possibilities. So it looks like we'll qualify for fancy footwork, bold advance, and apply poison and cheap shot. So we actually have a lot of choices. I usually don't get that good at making my characters. Let's see, what does apply poison do? Um, the rogue applies a poison to their weapon. The poison now lasts an extra 1d4 successful attacks. If they have more than one knife, they can have different poisons. And the application DC is reduced. Yeah, that's a cool one. We'll do apply poison. So we got 3 feats. There's 2 left. Let's see. Bold advance is a stance. So's fancy footwork. So stances take a quick action, I think is the term. They don't take a full turn, but they take one of your actions to enter a stance. And then you are in that stance until you exit that stance as a standard action. Okay, that's the word I was looking for. Only one stance can be active at a time. So bold advance would give the rogue's attack bonus a +1. And fancy footwork would increase their land speed by 5 feet and give them a penalty to attack rolls. So while that's useful, don't get me wrong, that's a useful ability, but I think Melissa would probably use bold advance over that because she's already not going to be a heavy hitter, I imagine. So yeah, bold advance. Now I could just go and take fancy footwork or one of these other like cheap shot or something, but I'm going to save the last feat to get a general feat. And these feats can be taken by all classes, and they kind of do like general stuff like adding 2 HP every time you level up, which that would probably be pretty useful for me on this character since she's a bit squishy. Ancient Bloodline can only be chosen during character creation, and it allows you to choose another race, which makes your character count as that race as well, which is important because there's prestige classes and some feats that can only be done by certain races, like there's a Dial Mastery that can only be done by Sky Tribesmen, and then there's the Fishman Karate, which can only be done by a Fishman. So you would need to use that feat to get them unless you are playing that race. Then you have all of these things, which are tiered. So you had to start at the lowest rank, of course, and then work your way up. Let's see. Dodge. Receive a +1 dodge bonus to defense rolls per 4 character levels against attacks from that opponent. Yeah, that sounds good. We'll take dodge, so she can avoid getting hit a little easier. So that wraps up our feats. Now, I still have to get equipment, which I don't have the PDF on me right now, so I'll have to go get that really quick. I do know that the doctor's kit is something that I will need in order to do any heal checks or any doctor things. And that costs $50,000, 50,000 belly rather. The weight isn't officially in the PDFs, but I have it on this sheet in case your GM wants to use it. The doctor's kit, and I think most of the other kits as well, do get consumed over time. How quickly that happens will probably be up to how much your GM wants to manage it, which in the doctor's case is one of the advantages of being able to pick up the surgeon prestige career, because the surgeon's kit, which costs twice as much as a doctor's kit, never runs out of use as long as you properly clean it after every use. So that can save you a lot of money in the end, but I have never played a game that far, so I don't know how effective it actually ends up being. So I'm going to go grab the prices document really quick, and I will be right back again. Back, and this is the prices document. It kind of sucks, to be honest. Like, its layout isn't very good, and it's just not very useful. I definitely would like to see an improvement of this made. In fact, I might make it myself since the community doesn't seem that big yet. But anyway, it lists the price of a bunch of basic materials, fuels, cannons, miscellaneous stuff, and more importantly, in my case, is the weapons. Now, light weapons aren't always labeled, it appears. Now, it would be kind of funny to me that a light mace is probably classified as a light weapon going by its name alone, though that would be very un-roguelike in my opinion. And this rarity column over here should also be kept into consideration. It's up to your GM whether or not he enforces it, or if he does so on specific items. Like, the kukri has a rarity of 7, 10 being the highest, so it would be very uncommon for someone to have a kukri. So it had to be either part of your story, or you'd have to have some good reason why you got it, or your GM might just say that you aren't allowed to use it at all. For this character, I'm probably just going to go with something basic, like daggers. Dual wielding has like a really heavy penalty to it because it's like 3rd edition. So without a feat, dual wielding kind of sucks, and even then, it kind of sucks still. So I probably will only use one dagger, but I'll buy several of them so I can throw them. They are 3,000 belly each, so I will buy 3 of them, let's say. So that is 59,000 that I've spent, which should leave me with 41,000, if I'm correct. As for the rest, dials are cool, and I'd love to have one, but you have to go to a Sky Island to get them, so unless you're a Skypian, it doesn't really make sense to start with a dial, unless your GM is changing the way that the world works. And I was actually wrong about the price of the Surgeon kit. It's 200,000, so that's a very expensive kit. Anyway, we will have a backpack, I would guess. That would probably be a good thing to have to carry our stuff. So that's 2,000 belly. And yeah. I probably won't buy too much more. Normally in these role-playing games, you'd want to have like rations so you can eat, so you don't starve to death. But since there's an entire career for chef, and we're on a ship with other people, I'm gonna assume that there will be food on the ship anyway. And if there isn't, I'm going to still be entering the game with 39,000 belly, so we could probably stop and buy some. I know it's kind of disappointing I didn't really buy a full kit. Maybe we could look at armor. I know in the game that I'm playing, I wasn't able to afford it because it's just so expensive. But then again, I think my character was looking for heavier armor, so maybe light armor is affordable. So the thing that this game does differently is you can get the vest, pants, gloves, cap, and boots separately. Um, some GMs won't count them, like my GM will not count them because he thinks it's stupid, but in the rulebook, each armor slot provides a different amount of armor. So like the chest obviously provides the most protection, but then even wearing the helmet or gauntlets would give you some. So like you could buy plate mail gauntlets at level 1 and still get like a 1 or 2 on your armor class, which you'd normally start with like 0 if you don't buy any. Unfortunately, with leather and maybe even chainmail, I'm not sure, but with leather, only the chest actually provides armor. The other pieces don't. They're just for decorative purposes, I guess. So yeah, we'll buy a leather vest. That's 20,000, leaving us with 19,000. And that goes here on this tab, right here. I believe it provides 1 defense. I'm not entirely sure. The dagger, I'd have to look up the exact stats, but I'm going to assume it's identical to Dungeons and Dragons, where it would do 1d4 plus your modifier, which in my case would be dexterity, which means that it is a +3, which kind of low damage. I think it's a ×3 though, so that's good if it crits. It's a piercing weapon. And range of 20 feet, I think, maybe? I'd have to look it up to be exactly sure, but I know you can throw it as well, and that's part of the reason I picked it. So I think that's everything I have to fill out on this character. So as a reminder, she is a merfolk rogue with these disadvantages. She's got these favorite skills, the ones with the Fs. And these are her skills, secondary skills rather. And yeah, I think that's all there is to this character. I think she'd be pretty fun. I kind of regret not making this kind of character for the game that I'm playing. I'm currently playing a Skypian specialist with the scientist as its career. He's very socially inept, kind of like myself, so I guess you could say that it's just me being lazy with my role-playing. But I definitely would like to use a character like this in the future. That number is wrong. And yeah, so this sheet will be in the description below, as well as a link to Bad Karma Gaming's website. If you liked or hated this video, you probably already know what to do. But until next time, guys, this is Raz at the Anime Dungeon, and I'll see you guys very soon.